My name is Musa Adnan. That's Ustad Adnan Rashid. This is Rerooted. And here's what we have coming up today.
They made me the goalie because once we were playing and I dived to catch the ball, and they found that extraordinary. They said, wow, that's so classy. That's so much like what we see on TV, right? So I said, I just dived.
That's great.
Right?
You know, they made me goalie when I was like a kid in primary school,
Right,
but that's
right.
only because I was rubbish at football.
Okay. So you were young at the time and it was disturbing. So when I would come home battered, injured, just because of these stupid fights, because of my friends and other things, partly my fault as well, I would look at you and I would feel sorry. I would say, is this what this child deserves? I mean, is this the kind of father he wants? Is this what I want to give him in life? Do I want to change? And I started to contemplate and I started to change, you know. As I said, as a teenager, I was very naughty in Pakistan.
From the Muslim side, imagine me right now, the person I am. I went tomorrow and I started making raps, Muslim raps.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, yeah, I went and joined ISIS, I done this, and I got 3 wives, etc. I done all of this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I was shooting people and I was stabbing people. Look, brothers and sisters, you need to come and join me. What would happen?
Yes, absolutely.
You're getting shut down.
Yes,
and we
rightly
disagree
so.
with that.
You should be shut down because we don't want a society like that.
And
We don't want people doing stuff like that. And same logic has to be applied to rappers who are
Thank you.
promoting evil.
Okay, let's get straight into it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Congratulations on graduating with a Masters in History from the University of London. How does it feel?
Feels normal.
You know, I wanna actually go into that a little bit later. How you chose to study and pursue education. A little bit later, typically speaking, from your average normal person. And obviously, I cracked a joke at your graduation, and I said, you're like the oldest person here. You weren't. There's a lot of people that actually go into that, and actually, the age you actually end up going into your masters and PhDs, the normal age that a lot of people actually end up going into their PhD and masters. I think because a lot of people,
It's later, yeah.
yeah, a lot of people choose to go back to uni.
Even
and
masters, most people stop at graduation.
Yeah.
Bachelors.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they realize, hold on, maybe I need to go forward
Yeah.
a bit more further into studies. And
Yeah.
then they go for masters, and then people stop at masters, and very few go as far as the doctorate.
So since you obviously you've got your bachelor's in history, mashallah, tabarakallah, and you got your master's in history as well, it's only right that we start this off with a quick history quiz.
Okay.
So we're gonna set down the rules. I need some of the props to come to me. If I can get some of the props, we're gonna get the brothers bringing the props. It's alright. You can just come in the camera. It's okay. So the first thing we're gonna have is, if you get the question right, you're good.
Okay.
If you get it wrong, you're gonna have to down this chili sauce with this spoon. Okay.
Okay.
So we got some chili sauce here.
So if I get them right, you're gonna down all of it in one go. And if you won't do it, I'll do it my
Okay.
way.
You have to remember.
Yeah.
I'm also pursuing my bachelor's in history,
Okay.
and I know which fields of history that you're good on
Yeah.
and where you're really bad on.
Okay.
So
Then it's not fair. If you're gonna ask me questions about, let's say,
Greeks and Romans.
yeah, exactly. I know a little bit, but that's not my field.
I'll keep it a little bit.
If you're gonna ask me questions about astrophysics or neuroscience or something like that,
Okay.
I might as well start now with the chili.
Okay. Okay. So let's go into the first question. Yeah.
Yeah.
The first question is, what was the first Muslim caliphate known as?
Khilafatul Rashida,
Okay, and after them.
Mulukiya,
Okay, but the dynasties, who came first,
Umayyads,
and then?
Abbasids.
Okay, this is easy. This is light work for you. So this is just like warming up. That's the first question, by the way. All of
So
that
can
was
you have some chili now?
first question. No.
No, because there should be a consequence. If you have a consequence for me
My
for getting questions
I'm having this.
or getting the answers wrong. What's that?
I'm not well.
That's probably sweet.
It's a
No,
ginger
I
boost.
want you to have this chili.
I'm not well.
I
is it?
want you to suffer. I want you to sweat
I'm ill.
for assuming
I'm actually ill.
that. Okay.
I didn't assume you don't
Yeah.
know that. I gave you an easy one. Of course you know
Okay.
that. If you didn't know
But
that.
there should be a consequence. Hello, you have a consequence
No,
for me.
that's
Where's
fine.
the justice?
All right.
No, a full spoon.
No, I'm not having a full spoon. I'm having it. I
So
choose.
how-
Wait, 1 second. I'm the host here.
The Prophet ﷺ said,
Sallam.
لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه.
أنا ما
If
أحب
you-
هذا لي. أنا ما أحب هذا لك. I don't.
Okay, then why do you have it for me?
I don't love this for you.
MashaAllah. Then if you, okay. Yeah. Are you having it?
Yeah. This, yeah.
Inshallah, Musa is going to have a lot of chili today. Okay.
Why did you have to choose this one, man? This isn't even. You know this chili sauce. You know when you go to the chicken shops
Wait, there's more coming.
and they give you the. You know which one they give you?
Yeah.
The tangy one. It doesn't even taste like chili sauce.
Because they haven't diluted it. So good. Well done, guys. You got the best chili for him. We're going to make sure he learns some lessons on history today.
Which of? I know you hate British history.
No, I don't. I love it, actually. You don't know what you're talking about.
You know what I mean? Like as in Henry VIII and stuff like that. You're not
No,
that
I
much
actually
into
love
it.
it. I love history.
But you're not into that stuff. Portion of history
well,
as much.
I have studied it partially, yes.
Yeah, no, you've studied it, but obviously, as in
And I like that period, Tudor England. I actually like it.
I like it as well.
Yeah, it's very.
But you're not as
unique.
interested in it, right?
It's a difficult thing to say. I'm more interested in Islamic dynasties, Islamic civilization, and even early Christian history.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in Atlantic slave trade, transatlantic slave trade.
Okay.
I'm interested in witchcraft in Europe. Not that I want to study what the witches were doing, but how they were treated in Europe. Human suffering, generally. It fascinates me because it is continuing to this day. It hasn't stopped. As people say that history repeats itself, in my opinion, it's repeating itself right here in front of our eyes. It's unfolding.
Before you go into it,
Yeah.
let's ask a few more of the questions. We're gonna get into
before
the
I
deep
start,
stuff. What country lost 17.2% of its population in World War II?
17.2% of its population in World War II.
What do you think it is?
Germany,
No,
France,
no,
Britain.
no.
What? Then who? Japan?
I wouldn't know this as well, to be.
Japan?
Not Japan, no.
17.2.
Okay.
Second World War.
Yeah, Second World War.
So where were the casualties if these countries didn't lose their populations?
17.2% though.
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, I know.
That's a lot of
Do
people.
you wanna keep guessing?
If it's not Britain, it's not.
Okay, where did Hitler start it from? That's a clue.
Poland?
There you go.
Thank you. Okay.
Poland.
Okay.
Poland,
Okay.
mate.
Wow, that's a lot of people. Actually, I didn't know the answer, but I have studied it. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's ask the next question.
Hmm.
I think you should have a spoon for that though, no?
I got the answer right.
After seven-
should carry on before I.
Wait, I'll give you a different one. After 7 attempts, you got the answer right.
No, not 7.
That was like 7.
3 attempts.
And then I had to help
3
you
attempts.
as well. I had to tell you where it
No,
started.
you. Yeah. Well, you see, I couldn't say Bolivia.
I know that. obviously.
Okay, so that's the wrong answer.
No,
right?
but
if I was far apart, let's say another continent away, which I said Japan, because Japan was involved in the Second World War. It was one of the biggest threats to.
Do you know what this is called?
To the Allies.
This is called setting you up.
Okay.
You need to have some. Have some.
Okay. Bismillah.
That's not. You just
Nice.
licked it.
You know, this chili doesn't do nothing to me. Actually.
Yeah, I know.
You
I don't know why.
Yeah, this chili
you
doesn't
need
do
to get the
nothing to me.
serious one, man.
You need to get the Naga.
Let's ask the next one. According to legend,
Oh, it's coming. Okay. Yeah.
According to legend, Rome was founded in 753 BC by whom?
That's a very good question, and
This
I
is,
know.
by the way, according to legend, not emperor. or-
Yeah. I know the name. I know the name of that.
There's 2 people.
How
really-
can I forget? How
it's
can I
like-
forget? It was done next to the river. The city of Rome was established next to the river in the 8th century BC. As you said, the legend goes, but I cannot remember the name. What was the name?
The clue is in the name Rome.
Was it Romanos?
No,
Uh,
there's 2 of them. They're
Right.
brothers.
okay, I don't know.
Romulus and Remus.
Okay,
Do you remember?
I did know
Because
Romulus.
I know Roman history is very.
Yeah.
To be, I done it.
So chili? Shall I take some more
Yeah,
chili?
you should take some. I done it last year, and thingy. You know what? Since I think I've asked too many hard
What?
questions.
Aunt May's Bajan pepper sauce. What are you trying to do? You're trying to cause a nuclear explosion or something?
Okay, let's ask some questions about. I'm gonna think of some off the top of my head, yeah. To do with history. you've studied a lot into the Crusades, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Some of
so
it, yeah.
so when was the first crusade?
It started in 1095 and it ended with the siege of Jerusalem in 1099, July 1099. And this is the conventional view.
When was the Battle of Hittin?
1187. July 1187.
There you go. I was gonna ask you what month.
Chili. Can you down some chili now?
Man.
Can you take a sip of that? I really want to see that happen.
You know, I saw Muhsin
Oh my God.
licking this with his like tongue and stuff. It's disgusting, man. By the way, we're gonna get into the serious stuff. I'm sure he's gonna.
You get
like,
two chili
cut
tastes.
this up or something.
You get two chili tastes. One is the chili, and the other taste is Mohsin's.
Oh, that's disgusting. That's disgusting.
Wow. So, tell me when you're gonna stop
That's
with history
actually
because
nice.
you're gonna end up downing all that bottle.
That's actually nice.
Is it?
You're gonna like that.
Okay, then I think we need something different, guys.
No,
He
you're
likes
gonna
it.
like that.
Okay.
You're gonna like that.
Okay.
Okay, let's get the next question in. Okay,
Mhm.
let's try and seek a bit of knowledge in this as well about history.
Mm.
I want to ask you a bit more of a serious, generic question as well, because I think history is very. I actually started to love history later on in life. I remember you were, not that I'm 60 years old, but later on in my like, once I was in my 20s, and you would always encourage me to go to uni.
Yeah.
And study and stuff like that, and you would always often push history, but I never really became accustomed to liking history. You know, when I became accustomed to liking history, when I started going uni, and I was like, and before uni, I started pondering a lot. I think in order to be someone who's a student of history, you need to ponder a lot.
Yeah.
So I started pondering into like, wow, who must have come here? Is thoughts like that
Yes.
that make you very, very interested.
Yeah, analyze, assess.
What's your favorite part of Muslim history, and or any history? What makes you really like think this is crazy? If there's one thing off the top of your head right now, because obviously this isn't planned.
The early Islamic expansion.
Okay, why do you find that
'Cause
so
it was so
inspiring? I
fast.
find that very inspiring
It
as
was
well.
so rapid. It happened so fast within such short span of time. These ill-equipped, underdeveloped, I wouldn't say illiterate, but very
A
limited.
lot of them were.
Yeah, very limited people, limited by means. They managed to take the planet within a century, and that prophecy was made in the Quran in chapter 24. Surah An-Nur, verse 55. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Wa'ada Allahu alladhina amanu minkum wa 'amilu s-salihat la yastakhlifannahum fil ard kama istakhlafa alladhina min qablihim. It is a promise of Allah to those who believe among you and do righteous deeds that Allah will grant you succession in the land, like He granted it to those who came before you. So these people, the primary audience of the Quran, the primary recipients of the Quran, they were listening to it. And who were they? They were a bunch of shepherds, camel herders, at best farmers, and that's all they knew. Farmers in Medina and traders in Mecca, basically.
It is very inspirational.
Yeah, and they expanded like, there's no precedence of it in human history. There's nothing like it, unprecedented. Okay, so they took land as far as China on the one side, and on the other side they went as far as Spain.
Do you know what really inspires me?
This was the largest stretch of land.
You know what really inspires me about what you're saying is, in the Quran, I think a lot of people don't even know this, unfortunately. This shows us our connection with the Quran, but in the Quran there's a surah named after the Romans, Surah Ar-Rum. Yeah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts it off by basically making a prediction of the, or not, for Allah it's not a prediction, He's telling us what's going to happen in the future, that the Romans are going to be defeated. And the way Allah says it is the Romans have been defeated. Past tense. And
because they were defeated. غُلِبَتِ الرُّومُ فِي أَدْنَى الْأَرْضِ.
No, but when that was revealed, they weren't.
No, they had been defeated. Basically, the
Wasn't
verse.
No.
This is about the Persian Byzantine wars.
Okay.
Just before the rise of Islam as a political power on the global scale, the Persians and the Byzantines were in war. against each other, and they
Yeah.
devastated each other. So one of these victories the Persians acquired was against the Byzantines when they went as far as Egypt. The Persians could not imagine in their wildest of dreams that they would take so much land
Okay.
from the Byzantines, from the Romans. And they went as far as Egypt, conquering. They conquered Syria, they conquered some parts of Turkey, current Turkey, and this was all Byzantine territory. So people who were watching at the time could not imagine the Romans ever recovering from this loss. Romans would never recover. If someone was to say Romans would come back, it would be madness. And the Quran is saying the Romans have been defeated. They have been defeated. You have seen they have been defeated.
Yeah.
However,
Okay.
they will come back.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
Within
about.
3 to 9 years,
3 to 9
they
years.
will take this land back. And amazingly, unbelievable things happened. The Romans started to come back, and they came back in such force, with such power, that they defeated the Persians on their own land, and they pursued the Persians as far as the Persian capital, Ctesiphon, which was called Madain.
And where was
which
where was
in
that
Iraq.
battle?
Iraq. The Romans pursued the Persians
Yeah.
as far as Iraq. So this was unbelievable. This was incredible. This was absolutely fascinating for the people who were alive.
Subhanallah.
And, some people, they actually would have laughed at the Prophet ﷺ when these verses were revealed upon him. That, hold on, how is that possible? The Romans will never recover. They have lost so much territory. They have lost Syria to Persians. They have lost Egypt,
Yeah.
parts
yeah,
of
yeah.
Egypt. So this is not going to happen.
Yeah.
It happened according to the prophecy of the Quran. So this was one of the ways to prove the Quran wrong as far as the Qurayshis were concerned. They could have said, hold on, if it didn't happen, they would have said to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, well, you failed, you lied. This was a false prophecy. It never happened. But it happened within the life of the Prophet ﷺ. The Romans came back.
And this is what I'm saying. And when you were speaking about expansion, the point that I actually wanted to bring in is expansions of the Romans, because I studied obviously Roman history in the last year at uni. And one of the things that we covered is Roman armies and the way that they work.
Yeah.
And if you look at the way Roman armies work, it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
They got different factions, and those factions have a leader, and then they're like in squares, and then you have names for each of them, and then you have one main leader. Each faction's and then if one guy dies, if one guy in the army gets killed, they have another guy that will come forward and replace him.
Yeah.
So they had like a very robust thing.
You see, the Romans had...
And then the Muslims defeated them.
Yes. And you see, the problem with Romans is, Romans are not homogeneous.
Okay.
They're not one group of people who remain the same all the time.
Yeah,
No.
you have the Byzantines, and then before
you have the Byzantines who...
Eastern Romans.
The Byzantium consisted of the Eastern Roman Empire, which was quite different in military tactics, in philosophy, even in language, because they used Greek as the main language, while the Western Roman Empire, which crumbled in the 5th century, mainly it lost its power and influence in the 5th century CE, they used Latin as the main language, and they were far more organized and effective because they carried out large conquests. Roman army from the 1st century to the 4th century, I would say, was the most organized and effective killing machine on the planet. Roman army at that time, or in this period, within these 3 centuries, had taken a lot of knowledge from the Greeks, the experience of the Greeks, because the Greeks had mastered a number of things when it comes to warfare. They were they were expert expert spearmen. They used to use spears effectively, the shields, and how they used to the armors. If you look at some of the ancient remains of the Greeks in the British Museum, you can see some of the art on the vases. Vases found in tombs and graves from the 5th and 6th century BC. If you look at the Greeks and their technology in war, because it's depicted on the vases, it's absolutely amazing.
It's really,
you see their spears, you see their blades, you see the shields,
and they
you
had
see the helmets and the shin guards. They, the armors for chest, and they're so clearly defined and beautifully made. And the Romans had all that to rely on, because Romans took all that knowledge into consideration and they developed it further. And then they went to the next step, which was to create an empire. So the Romans had created an empire stretching from Britain all the way going up to, touching Central Asia.
Yeah. And you know what's really, really crazy is what you were talking about. That's exactly how Romans were. Wherever they would go, they would adopt the things that they liked about that specific culture.
Yeah.
So you find like olive trees and stuff like that were very, very common in obviously amongst Greeks. Yeah. Romans adopted that. Yeah. Even in terms of clothing, Romans adopted. Caesar, when he came to the UK. That, or he came to the coast.
Did he get the visa?
I don't know if I think Brexit.
No, the way you, Brexit.
Yeah.
Forget Brexit. I mean, some people wouldn't like Caesar to come. I mean, even at that time, Brits fought the Romans.
Yeah.
The native Brits, who were seen as barbarians by the Romans because they were actually quite underdeveloped, semi-civilized or semi-barbarized. Okay.
Yeah.
People before the Romans came to Britain, the Celts. They are usually known as the Celts, and today the Celts, I would say, are the Irish and the Welsh, and possibly some Scots. Okay, the English people came in later on. English tribes, or the Anglo-Saxons, are a combination of the Angles, who came from Scandinavia, and Saxons, who came from Germany or Germania, right? So these two tribes came to Britain or Britannia, and they drove they drove the native tribes westwards. So,
but what about when the Romans were here, they
came in the 2nd century CE,
and the Anglo-Saxons fought them now and drove them out. There's different theories about that. The migration theory.
No, Anglo-Saxons didn't exist at the time when the Romans came. Anglo-Saxons came in later.
Okay.
Yeah, Angles and Saxons came in later.
No, but when they came in, there's like a migration theory about them, isn't it? That they drove the people out who were here. We don't know where they went. There's also theories that there was like a plague. Or did they wipe them out? Because all you find is like graves. And in the graves, you find Anglo-Saxons, there's like a period.
There are many cultures in Britain. You see, find one of the ways to look at the history of the region is to look at the coins, numismatic evidence, which teaches you a lot.
You know what I want to do? I want to get into all of this later. Okay. Because we've just gone into it deep, like in the beginning. I want to get into all of this later. Because some people are going to be like, whoa, what, these guys have just gone deep talking about history. Some people might not even get it.
Okay.
So let's start off. I want to start this off in a very, very ordered fashion, okay?
Okay.
Many people may know you, mashallah, tabarakallah, from different stuff. You've been in the da'wah scene. You've been lecturing and giving talks for a long time, ever since I was a child. A lot of what I know is because of you. I would go to talks with you and stuff like that, alhamdulillah, as a kid and stuff like that. So growing up, it was very, very informational for me. One of the things I also experienced growing up is you'd always talk about Pakistan. And growing up in Pakistan, I remember even as a kid, sometimes when I'd misbehave, you'd say, we need to send this guy back to Pakistan. A lot of parents think like that, okay? So a lot of parents think like that, especially people who are born and raised in Pakistan. They have this mentality that it's like an amazing place and it's just better than over here. Some people think like that.
Yeah.
How was it growing up in Pakistan? Because you were obviously in Pakistan up until you were 18, right?
19.
Yeah. So how was that? How was that whole experience? How would you describe it?
I think it was one of the best things, or the best part of my life, maybe, growing up as a child in Pakistan, because I experienced things other children from Britain wouldn't. For example, I was able to play in the village. I lived in a village for 2 years. I enjoyed that life. I did farming with my grandfather. My grandfather was a farmer, and I would help him in the fields sometimes, cut wheat, for example, and even farm turnips, okras, and carrots.
Very simple life.
Yeah, absolutely amazing, and tomatoes and all that. Okay, so we would farm all those things. I experienced that life, and I played with the kids in the village. I was the goalie of the village, by the way. I was the best goalie in the village, even though I was like maybe 10 years old.
Okay.
And the people I was playing with were 20, 25, 30, like that, it was like a ragtag team of football team in the village. But They made me the goalie because once we were playing and I dived to catch the ball, and they found that extraordinary. They said, "Wow, that's so classy. That's so much like what we see on TV, right?" So how did you? I said, "I just dived." They said, "Okay, you're the goalie of the village," and they made me the goalie, and I became a nightmare for the opposing team. Seriously, because I was so. They had to be careful with me, you see, because I was little. Okay, so when they would come to score the goal, I would just go and skid in their feet, and and take the ball away, and they had to be careful because they didn't want to damage me or injure me.
That's great.
Right?
They made me goalie when I was like a kid in primary school, but that's only because I was rubbish at football.
Okay.
So the guy who was rubbish at football, they put him in goal. Obviously, you're saying it wasn't like that with you.
Yeah.
You wanted to be in goal.
Yeah. That was amazing. My village life was absolutely amazing. Our village is in Haripur in Pakistan. There's a city called Haripur. The city was established by a Sikh general called Hari Singh Nalwa, and because the Sikhs tried to occupy that region, and they were facing a lot of problems. Sikhs lost one of their governors when Maharaja Ranjit Singh, who governed parts of the Punjab region, current day Pakistan, he tried to subdue all this region around the Kashmir Valley, right? So he sent his generals to subdue these regions. So one of those regions was called Hazara, right?
Okay.
Where my ancestors happened to be. My great-grandfather's grandfather was a Qadi. He was the jurist of the region. And his father was also a jurist. And they had launched a resistance movement against the Sikh occupation of the Hazara region.
Yeah.
Because it was previously governed by the Duranis, the Afghans. And before that, it was Mughal territory, right? So the Sikhs were seen as the outsiders, basically. They came from the Punjab region, and they didn't have a good profile at the time, unfortunately, because of the 18th century history. What happened in the 18th century, as far as the Sikh, militia groups are concerned, they were causing a lot of atrocities in the Punjab region, unfortunately. And this is history. I mean,
crazy.
So that history remained in people's minds, and they didn't really trust the Sikh government at the time in Lahore. So my ancestors resisted that. We have stories, family tradition, that my great-grandfather's great-grandfather was involved directly in some of these expeditions, and one of the Sikh governors was actually killed in one of these skirmishes. His name was Amar Singh Majitia, right? He was sent as a governor by Ranjit Singh, and there was a mountain valley where he was with his army, and he was ambushed, and he was killed in action, killed in battle. So a lot of these things were happening in the region. So Hari Singh Nalwa was sent to establish peace. I don't know if this.
I just realized. You know what I just realized?
Yeah, this is.
I asked you about your childhood, and you went back into history. We need to stick.
That's the problem.
We need to stick to your childhood.
Okay.
We need to go back.
So
how was it in Pakistan? School?
Oh, my village. Like, because I started telling you.
We'll do another one in future, and
okay.
I think we definitely need to do another episode of Rerooted with you just on history topics.
Yeah.
But this one, like. I want it to be more about you as a person, because a lot of people don't know you as a person.
Right.
And I think if they knew you, they would love you and respect you even more. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
That's fine.
So
my village, I was telling you the history of my village.
Yeah.
So cut the long story short, in case people get frustrated, that he was telling a story and we were interested in it. So this new general came called Hari Singh Nalwa.
No way.
And
you're going back into it.
He established a city called Haripur, and then surrounding villages and all that, they basically got attached to the city. And that's where my village is, in Pakistan.
Okay.
So I lived there. It was beautiful. I went to school for 2 years in Haripur.
Nice.
And I learned the Hindko language.
Okay.
Which
it's
is
not that different.
Which it is a dialect of the Punjabi language.
Yeah.
So it's very similar to the Punjabi language. So in that school in 2 years, I learned that language, and I still speak it fluently. When I go to the village, I speak it, and it's a beautiful language. Then I moved to Islamabad, the capital city of Pakistan. I went to school there, I went to a school in the sector.
Honestly speaking, did you prefer Islamabad to the village?
It depends.
Because city life and village life is different.
These were two different periods in my life because, there's no comparison.
Okay.
There's no comparison. I do miss that time I spent in the village for 2 years. I really miss that
But you
time.
wouldn't regret it. Like, you wouldn't go back to it. Like, you wouldn't. It's like a
Well,
different.
you change with time. As you grow older, you change.
Yeah.
Your perception. How can I put it? Your desires change.
Yeah.
You start to look for different things as you grow older.
Different things mean different things to you as well. Like when
Exactly.
you're younger, staying at home wouldn't mean much. But now,
Yeah, absolutely. So I moved to Islamabad, studied there for about 5 years. I did my A-levels equivalent from a college in Islamabad.
How would you describe like your teenage years in Pakistan if you were to like?
Very naughty.
Okay, so like, what's the kind of stuff you got
Very
up to?
troublesome. Sorry.
What's the kind of stuff you would get up to?
But one thing about kids in Pakistan, I'll tell you one thing. As naughty as they may be, as troublesome as they may be, the element of respect. The element of respect never departs from their lives, mostly speaking. They will respect the teacher. They will never swear at the teacher because the sanctity of the teachers is so much established in their minds that they can never imagine. Because parents and teachers are seen as equals. They are on par with each other. So the parents are your biological parents, and teachers are your spiritual parents.
Yeah.
This is the way children are generally conditioned in societies like Pakistan. Okay, and this is how I grew up. We used to joke about our teachers. We used to say but when it came to respect, we would never swear at them, never think bad of them, and anyone who was doing things like that would be considered an outcast.
Where
basically.
do you think that came from? Do you think that's fair?
I think it's
Do you think
cultural.
it's
I think
respect?
it's partly Islamic culture, honoring your teacher, respecting your teacher, and of course, Pakistani culture is heavily influenced by Islam, no doubt. Not in everything. I'm not saying everything Pakistani or everything in
Is
Pakistani
Islamic,
culture is Islamic. Not at all. I'm not saying that. I'm saying a lot of good things, virtuous things. Hospitality, courtesy, what we call maruwa in the Arabic language, or murawat in the Urdu language. Courtesy, being courteous, being tolerant, being hospitable. You see in Britain, you tend to see people are very straight. They don't really care about other people's feelings. If they want to say something, which can be good at times, which is necessary at times, no problem. But that doesn't happen in Pakistan. People don't always speak straight. They give you hints because of this concept of courtesy. You understand?
I think some people might find that a bit thingy though, because in the UK there are people like that as well.
Yes,
there are people.
I have met people like that. Absolutely. So courtesy, I think, is learned. It is acquired.
I think you'll find places where it's more prevalent and present.
Yeah.
Because look, let's be honest here. Like in your defense as well.
Yeah.
With the UK society, I mean, I grew up here. And it's like that. You don't have that aspect of respecting the teacher. You have the aspect of disrespecting the teacher. That's how it is.
Unfortunately,
the teacher's disrespected.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, people would argue with the teacher. Yeah. I know of people that like I knew one of my friends in college. I was gonna mention his name, but like he went somewhere called Pru, where they have it's like a prison school system here. Pru.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And basically, he went there because he threw a chair at his teacher. So like they do stuff like that. Okay. Where over here it's like a common thing. You swearing at a teacher is nothing.
Right.
It's not seen as like that big of a deal. You see,
it might be even in fashion. In
it
certain
is.
colleges and schools.
It is.
And this is a very big problem.
Like to mock your teacher. I remember like when I was in college, my English teacher, we would joke about him and stuff like that, whatnot. But it wasn't a joke, as in it's like there isn't that aspect of respect. But like as you mentioned, that is more instilled.
You see, in Pakistan, when I was growing up as a child, teachers, there is an unconventional agreement. I mean, how can I put it? Okay, there's an assumed position for the teachers, which is not necessarily put down on paper.
Yeah,
it is not like it's not like a rule.
It's like a social construct. It's become like
exactly.
that. Yeah.
That teachers are allowed to apply reasonable force on children if they
Okay.
need to discipline them. You
Yeah.
understand?
Yeah.
Reasonable force, right? Teachers cannot batter children. They can't start breaking
I think
their
that
bones.
happens though.
Okay, but slap around the wrist or something like that. And I was, as a child, believe me, reprimanded a number of times when I was going to school in Pakistan.
Yeah.
If I didn't do my homework, I was reprimanded. There are a number of ways teachers punished.
Do you think that's good?
In the long run, I think, believe me, if I was to meet those teachers today, I have more respect them. I have more respect for them than
Okay.
I did then.
Yeah.
Why? Because what they left the mark. I didn't take it as an insult. I was told that I deserve it because I didn't do it. I didn't do my homework. I didn't do what they asked me to do, and they were teaching me good things. Their teachings were good. They were teaching us a number of subjects, for example, and if we didn't do well, there were repercussions. There were consequences, right? And those consequences, they did explain to us, they are for
You're good.
You're good, right? So we appreciated it like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have a WhatsApp group now with my school friends, and we often talk about it. That teacher did this, he did that, he did this, and we laugh about it. But at the same time, we have maximum respect for them. One of them shared a picture of one of the teachers we had then in the 90s, and he looked so different, and everyone felt so emotional having seen his picture, having seen his image, that, oh my God, look, he's changed. And
You must
it
be
was an
like old
emotion.
now as well.
Yeah. So we have very strong attachment. Generally speaking, the culture in Pakistan facilitates a strong relationship between the teacher and the student. And it's a very spiritual relationship,
Yeah.
and it is there between parents and children as well. So that level of respect between the elders and the youngsters, that line is usually the red line. Okay? Is usually the red line. It can be crossed. It has been crossed a number of times. Many times children do disrespect their elders in those cultures. But Pakistan, in that sense, is that's why when we were talking about children growing up there, these are some of the good things about Pakistani culture.
So I know for a fact, like, speaking about that period of your life, you weren't the most religious person in the world. I would say, like, maybe cultural or just normal, like getting by.
Okay.
And when you came to thereafter, when you were around 19, you mentioned you came to London. Many people may not know this about you actually, but when you came to London, I think some people might even find it funny because even over here, there's this perception of people that have come from abroad, especially Pakistan. They're referred to as things like freshie. He's this. He's fresh off the boat. He's etc. But when you came, one of the things that was different about you is you actually got involved in gangs. You got involved in gangs.
Yes.
Got involved in some sort of violence, stuff like that. How was that period of your life? Where like 19 going
That
on,
was
growing
very
up?
unfortunate period. Very, very unfortunate.
And how did you end up getting yourself into that? Because I know for a fact a lot of people are going to think we've never heard this side of you before. Because I don't think
Right.
you've spoken about it that much in the public.
I didn't plan it actually. When I came to Britain,
You didn't plan to like come and get
my father in Pakistan was relatively strict with me. He didn't allow me to stay out for long, and he would ask questions. So I had some sort of discipline there. But when I came to Britain, my father wasn't there, and he was the only person I really kind of feared in my life. So here, when I came here, there was no restriction. There was no one. I was 19, still a teenager. Okay, and then I went on the streets, met few people, made friends, and then they would start getting into trouble, and I would be with them, of course, at the time. And then being from Pakistan, I wanted to prove myself to be the man of the clan, the man of the clan. Yeah. You have a line now, the man of the clan. Okay, so always to prove myself, I would be kind of, I'm the gangster kind of thing, that kind of attitude. And I wasted a lot of my time. Cut the long story short, I had many problems, ended up in trouble, had many fights. You were little at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, by the way, he's my son. Those of you who don't know, Musa Adnan is my son. Right.
I intentionally said I'm intentionally not calling you anything.
Okay.
I said that. I said I'm not gonna call you anything here because it's gonna get a bit. Some people might be like.
So you were young at the time, and it was disturbing. So when I would come home battered, injured just because of these stupid fights, because of my friends and other things, partly my fault as well, I would look at you and I would feel sorry. I would say, is this what this child deserves? I mean, is this the kind of father he wants? Is this what I want to give him in life? Do I want to change? And I started to contemplate and I started to change, you know. As I said, as a teenager, I was very naughty in Pakistan. Naughty in the sense that, you know,
You know, actually, this just randomly came to my head. It wasn't even in my plan for speaking about this, but I thought, I don't know how I could miss this, but nowadays we have like a very large epidemic of knife crime.
Yeah.
Big epidemic of knife crime.
Yeah.
And I know, I hope you don't mind me mentioning this, but I know you was involved. In that sort of world.
I was around certain situations where things like that happen, unfortunately, and even at that time.
So had you ever seen anyone
I've
getting
seen many
stabbed?
things like that. Yeah. Things happened in front of me. Yeah, like people, you know, getting injured in fights and stuff like that, and it was very unfortunate.
Yeah.
And I believe at the time, this was due to lack of attention. Lack of attention as far as the youngsters are concerned. The youngsters, they need something to do. They need to be educated. They need to be nurtured. They need to be taken into your arms, and they need to be comforted. You know, a lot of these youngsters feel left out. They feel abandoned. They feel little care from the society, from their parents, from their relatives, from the system, from the schooling system, right?
It makes sense as well.
And they don't have people to look up to. And the only people they have to look up to are people like, you know, during my teenage, it were people like Tupac, B.I.G., right, and other rappers from the US. I used to listen to the raps and I used to psych myself up. So when you allow this corrupt content to infiltrate the minds of the youngsters, they will replicate it. They will implicate this behavior on the streets. And this is exactly what was happening with me.
Yeah.
Okay, I used to think I'm Tupac or I'm like him. I started to talk like him. I started to walk like him. I started to, you know, there were times, you know, I even contemplated becoming a rapper.
Mad.
Or a DJ or something like that, you know. This is the kind of influence. So you will become what you spend your time with. You will become what you read. You will become what you
consume,
what you consume as information.
Yeah.
Right? What you internalize.
Yeah.
If you're listening to music, you will live in that world, and you will try to make that world real in your life. Okay, and it won't happen. You will never become those people. You can't. And it's not something great to become those people. They are the most depressed people on the planet. Some of these people you look up to. So the youth, unfortunately, the information they're taking in, the reason why they're behaving in this way is because what they have been given by the society, right? They are listening to ugly, evil, unpleasant music, right? Which talks about violence, which talks about degradation of women, which talks about rebellion, which talks about drugs and music.
So I want
and very quickly, let me finish.
Yeah.
So all of these things, these kids are watching and listening and replicating. Okay, what's gonna happen is they're gonna become like that, and that's when they start stabbing. You know, now when a child 16 or 15 or 17 or whatever the age is stabbing another child, you know, he's not thinking that he is doing a crime. He's thinking he's a gangster. He's like that gangster he listens to. You know, he's following his inspiration.
You know, on this, just to come in, because this is a very important point. There's been a lot of talk online recently about, I don't know if you've heard of drill music. Have you heard of it before?
No.
Drill is like modern day rap. It's UK modern day rap, where they explicitly, it's a type of beat. They specifically talk about shooting people, stabbing people. I shot this guy. They call it catching bodies. They call it counting numbers. They literally do it like that. They say, oh, I stabbed this guy here, I done this, etc. And it's very, very linked. For example, you have one rapper who something would happen to him. The next day, the area that they're fighting or the area that they're against is very well known now. This whole rap beef. This guy is from this area and he's from there and he's from there and they're all against each other. He got hit. So therefore tomorrow it will be on the news, he got hit, and people find out, wow, this guy's real. They say it like he's about that life. That rapper is real.
He's practicing what he preaches.
Yeah, so therefore we should listen to him more. Yeah.
Right.
Now there's
he's
this
the man
thing.
of his words, huh?
Yeah, Diane Abbott, she's one of the members of parliament, and she recently had a conversation. I know one brother, his name's Umar Zabib. He went there, and he called me about it as well, and I got him in touch with Dilly from 5 Pillars to speak to Dilly for some advice. He went into parliament to debate this topic of drill music. Does it affect people? And you'll be surprised, there's rappers out there. I've seen some rappers recently, they went on Good Morning Britain, and they talk about stuff like this, and they are so fooled to think that this makes no difference. They think, if anything, one of them I heard, you know what he said?
So,
he said, wait.
if that's the case, why is radicalization a problem?
No, they'll say
If speeches don't affect people,
Yeah.
for example,
Thank you.
if speeches don't affect people, if information online doesn't affect people, then let it go on.
Yeah.
We don't want it to go on. We want extremist material to be banned. All of us, all sane people, all level-headed people, all normal people want extremist material to be banned. You know why?
Yeah.
Because whether it is speeches
Yes.
or literature
Yes.
on paper
Yes.
or on the screen,
It makes no sense
it
to me, yeah.
affects your minds. It inspires you to do unpleasant, destructive things, right? Likewise, same logic has to be applied to porn, pornography,
Yeah.
rap music, or any music that degrades women or promotes violence in lyrics or in beats or whatever it is.
Exactly.
So you cannot separate the two. You can't be hypocritical about radicalization and extremist material, which is banned, rightly so.
Of course.
And then this extremist material, where women are being called B word, okay, where humans are called like dogs, for example, unfortunately, and there's no problem with that, and racist language is being used, drug is being promoted. In videos, people are smoking drugs openly, right? And women are being degraded in the videos. You know, unfortunately, rap music reduced the status of certain women to be used as dirty rags or something, right? And some people are out there, they're making money out of it. You see, those people who are making money out of it, they are simply concerned about their pockets. They don't care about the society.
And do you know what this rapper said? If I can come in, you know what this rapper said?
Yeah.
He said, when he was on Good Morning Britain, he goes, no, but you have to look at it like this. These rappers are changing their lives. They're becoming, like, they're making money. And therefore, they're not going back to the streets. They're not drug dealing. But I'm like, how does that even make sense? You're telling people that you drug deal. You're telling people that you shoot people. You're telling people that you stab people. You're telling people that if they come to you, you're going to do this to them. And you think that's not making a difference.
And women.
Let me ask you a
and
question.
the issue of women, when they degrade women, you know.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Look, what you mentioned, Jazakallah khair, is a very good point. Because, look, from the Muslim side, imagine me right now, the person I am. I went tomorrow and I started making raps, Muslim raps.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, yeah, I went and joined ISIS. I done this and I got 3 wives, etc. I done all of this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I was shooting people and I was stabbing people. Look, brothers and sisters, you need to come and join me. What would happen?
Yes, absolutely.
You're getting shut down.
Yes.
And we
rightly
disagree
so.
with that.
You should be shut down because we don't want a society like that. We don't want people doing stuff like that. And same logic has to be applied to rappers who are promoting evil in the society.
And you have the audacity where you have this.
Yeah.
You have the propagation of these acts. And you have the acts being committed.
Yeah.
People in London being stabbed all over the place. I grew up around Cuban, SK, Killy, they call it, etc. People getting stabbed there.
Yeah.
People going from Cuban, they got wars with people from, for example, Church Road, where these other rappers are from.
all childish.
How far is Church Road, Housden, from Cuban?
Not far.
5-10 minute drive.
Yeah.
And they're shooting each other, people getting killed.
Yeah.
And you're talking about this in your raps and you're saying it doesn't influence people.
There's another
How does
issue.
that make sense?
There's another issue. Hollywood is making movies about this gangster culture.
Yeah.
Gangsters are being glorified in movies. Okay? Imagine Hollywood making a movie about Osama bin Laden and glorifying him. It would never be allowed.
Doesn't make sense.
Imagine Hollywood making a movie about one of these big terrorists around the world.
Jihadi John.
Jihadi John, exactly. Imagine Hollywood making a movie sympathizing with Jihadi John and painting a very human picture of him.
And then they're saying,
right?
no, we're not influencing anything.
And then exactly. The directors would come and say, no, we are just telling a story. This guy went through all these experiences in life, and he ended up with ISIS, and he started killing people. And then in the end of the movie, you play this very what do you call it? Touching music. Yeah, when he's dying or when he's being killed, and emotional stuff, like American Gangster, Denzel Washington, The Godfather.
Yeah.
The Godfather, you know how many people The Godfather influenced?
Inspired, yeah.
Let me tell you one guy in particular. The favorite movie of Saddam Hussein was The Godfather. Saddam Hussein was a huge fan of Al Pacino. Okay, and Robert De Niro. His favorite movie was The Godfather. And when you look at his behavior, when he was the ruler of Iraq, you see him people, he's incarcerating people, he's torturing them, he's decapitating them, he's doing all kind of those, torturing them, and the inspiration is possibly coming from, one of the inspirations he possibly had was the movie. So the point I'm making is, why do we glorify gangsters, evil people, drug dealers, right? And put a love story out. The guy has an affair with a woman and she's dying for him and he's dying for her, and the robbers. And all of these Hollywood movies have an equal part to play, right?
Yeah.
To make money,
100%.
because a lot of money is involved, they can put out what they want. Why is that acceptable and not extremist material or glorifying an extremist or a terrorist in a movie? It doesn't make sense. There are clearly double standards.
We're not saying it's the main cause, but it's definitely one of the things that's inspiring people to do these acts. And look, in conclusion to this topic, one of the things I want to say is, you cannot come here and say, you cannot get out of here with that stuff, man, where you come here and you say people are going to listen to things all day, school kids are going to listen to things all day, and they're not going to internalize any of what you're saying. They're not going to actually think, oh, he's saying this, and they're not going to get inspired. You cannot say that you're going to watch things for all your life and it's not going to affect your mind. That's like saying, I'm listening to it, but there's a barrier between it and my mind. There's not. I'm really, really sorry. Moving on. We were speaking about you, growing up, etc., coming here, going through all of that sort of stuff, seeing that sort of life. And, you were deep into that life where, I won't mention details, but I know for a fact, it affected you as well, where you have marks on your body where people, for example, they don't know that's come from crazy stuff.
Yeah, I was hospitalized a number of times. Yes.
So, and at the same time, you done things that, we're not going to say, like there was fights, isn't it?
Yes,
between you and other people,
yes.
Yes. Now, how does one be so deep in that lifestyle where there's people looking for you, you and your crew are looking for people, there's, that sort of life, how it is, it can really chase you up. How did you go from that to becoming who you are today? What?
Firstly, let me tell you about that life. It's a mad dog's life. You can never have peace in that life. Yeah. You will never have peace, no matter how much money you have in your pocket. You may have a stash of pounds in your pocket. You may be driving a flashy car, and but you will live a dog's life, a rabid street dog. Okay, I'm not saying people are like that. I'm saying that's the comparison I'm making, right? You won't have any peace. Okay, you will be walking around like a zombie, looking for peace, looking for love, looking for compassion, but you won't find it in that life. A simple solution to your problems in life, if you're living a life like that, is Allah bi dhikrillah tatma'innul qulub. Okay, do hearts not find tranquility in the remembrance of Allah, in the remembrance of God? So if you want refuge, if you want peace, if you want love, if you want compassion, if you want a clean life, clean of any tension, clean of any fear, clean of any depression, then it is a life in obedience to Allah or in submission to Allah.
So what made you make that transition?
Basically, this is it. When I got depressed in 2001, I was very depressed because of my activities. I came to Britain in 1997, and for the next 3 to 4 years, I kind of wasted that time, making these friendships. And a lot of my friends, alhamdulillah, now they are themselves practicing. They came later, but there's a time for everyone. Some of them ended up in jails. They did many bad things, and they ended up in jail, and they are out now, alhamdulillah, and they are also practicing, and they've learnt the hard way that there is no peace in that life. it's all bakwas. It's all a waste of time and a waste of a life, precious life. Okay, so in 2001, I was very depressed, and then I started listening to different people because I had very little knowledge of Islam. I started listening to different people, some good, some not so good, right? Because at the time, I didn't know how to discern between the authentic teachings of Islam or the authentic tradition of Islam. So I was listening to a number of people.
Yeah.
Some were moderates, others were in the middle, some were not so much in the middle. I listened to all sorts of people. I attended a number of different lectures, listened to a number of different people, and having listened to all these people, I did my own assessment on Islam. Okay, I studied books. I knew the Urdu language, so I had that advantage. I studied a lot of Urdu books. There are a lot of translations in the Urdu language from classical Arabic literature, so I studied those. I studied the history of Islam, which was my passion from a very young age. I used to collect coins even as a child, so that remains with me to this day. We can talk about that later. So I studied, and by the year 2010, I would say, pretty much, my view on Islam started to stabilize. I went through many transitions. From 2001 to 2010, I went through many experiments and experiences where I learned many things. And by the year 2010, my view on Islam had become kind of clear for myself, for me, that this is what Islam stands for. And I got fascinated by Islamic civilization. So now anyone coming to me telling me that ISIS is Islam, Islam is terrorism, Islam promotes violence, Islam is a violent faith, Islam is a backward faith, Islam is a barbaric way of life, Islam suppresses women, Islam is misogynistic. All these things don't affect me. You know why? Because I know better, alhamdulillah. I have studied the history of Islamic civilization. What Islamophobes and Islam haters with an agenda, there are a number of people who are attacking Islam online there. It is a money business. It's a money thing, right? Islamophobia industry is a well-oiled, well-funded industry. A lot of people are attacking Islam primarily for money. Okay, whether it's Christian missionaries, whether it is extremist atheists, whether it is so-called ex-Muslims, they are all using the name of Islam to make money. A lot of them are sad cases who have no life otherwise, and they're trying to make money out of it, right? So none of these people, they affect me. You know why? Because I have studied thoroughly. I have studied the civilization of Islam, and I know what the Prophet left behind, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, created what we call the Islamic or the Muslim civilization. Our libraries, our scholars, our poets, our intellectuals, our philosophers, our theologians, right? Our researchers, our travelers, okay, our architects, scribes, bookbinders, bookmakers, paper makers,
all of this was
mills. Okay, Islamic civilization is not something you can just dismiss by ISIS. No, ISIS is a product which was made recently due to geopolitical circumstances of the Middle East, and I don't want to get into that. I've had many discussions on that in other places, right? So jumping from ISIS straight to the Prophet, what people do is they make a leap, okay? They make a leap. What they do is they jump from ISIS straight to the Prophet. So it's an arc. It makes an arc, okay? And when you look at this arc, what happened in between is completely ignored. Between the Prophet and what transpired in Iraq 5 to 6 years ago, people ignore what happened in between. The Islamic civilization, the achievements of Muslims from China to Spain, our libraries, our universities, our scholars who directly inspired the European Renaissance, okay? The reawakening of Europe to classical knowledge, how the Europeans became so powerful, how the Europeans or the Westerners became so technologically advanced. Islam is at the center of it. Islam is at the heart.
Most definitely.
And there are so many books written on that. I mean, these bookshelves
are full of books like that.
Absolutely on these topics. So the point is, my reading on Islam became very clear. My view on Islam became very clear. I rejected all forms of extremism, alhamdulillah, from the very beginning. I never accepted extremism. It never appealed to me. Any extremist views, wherever they came from, whether they came from the Muslim circles or non-Muslim circles, they never appealed to me. I see humans as brothers and sisters in one family. This planet is a family. People disagree with each other, right?
Yeah.
People disagree with each other. Muslims, I believe, are following a way of life which is the best solution to our problems. This is my view. Islam is the best solution to our problems, the problems we face as humans. Islam is against deforestation. Islam is against the abuse of the climate. Climate change is a huge problem in the world.
Poverty.
Unfortunately, not many Muslim imams and Muslim leaders are talking about it. Unfortunately, we don't feel confident enough to talk about these topics. But we need to take the lead. We, the Muslim youth, we need to come forward and take the lead on issues like deforestation. We need to talk about it. We need to talk about drug abuse in Brazil, for example. There are 500,000 children on the streets of Brazil, Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, who are sniffing glue and they are being abused sexually by predators. We need to talk about sexual abuse or child abuse in Cambodia and Vietnam, or even Philippines, where many men go from Western countries and they get married temporarily and leave women with children. I mean, I was watching a documentary; it was very disturbing. We need to take a lead on wildlife. Elephants are being killed. Elephant poaching is one of the biggest problems we are facing in the world. And people think elephants, so what if all elephants die? No, people don't realize how animals are part of the planet, how they help the planet survive. Okay, I can give you a very quick example. They did this experiment. They released few wolves in an area which was kind of going down, the climate, no, not the climate, sorry, the habitation, it was not so well. They released wolves, okay? The wolves came in and they created a cycle, an ecosystem that facilitated the flourishing of this region, okay? Some people might have seen it on Facebook. There was a short documentary. It was fascinating how releasing a few wolves into the wild in a certain area can change the environment completely. We think elephants dying, if elephants were to disappear in 50 years from now, it's not going to make any difference. No, it will make a difference to the planet. All of these animals dying around the world, they are part of this planet. We believe Allah has put them on the planet for a reason. They serve a purpose. They serve a cycle of life. And if this cycle is disturbed, then we as Muslims need to take lead on these issues. We, for example, need to run a campaign. Muslims for elephants. Muslims for protecting elephants. Go to Africa, do campaigns and stop poaching of elephants. However you want to do it. Who is taking the lead currently? Non-Muslims from Western countries mostly. People we know as white people, for example, okay, to use a general term, white people are taking the lead. White non-Muslim people are taking the lead on these topics. When will the Muslims wake up and take lead on these topics and manifest the mercy Allah promised in the Qur'an? When Allah says, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ, I believe that means something. We need to manifest that mercy for this planet, because Alameen means everything other than Allah, everything that has been created. And that means this planet. 100%. Everything on the planet is the responsibility of the Muslims. Even the fish in the sea. Greenpeace, for example, I don't know if you know about this organization.
Yeah.
Greenpeace campaigns to protect whales and sea life and all that. Where are the Muslims? Where are the Muslims? What are we? So these are the things we need to look into. When the world looks at us, that we are campaigning for the protection of elephants, we are campaigning against deforestation, we are campaigning against climate change, we are campaigning against poaching of tigers in India, for example, we are campaigning against drug abuse or child abuse in Brazil and Cambodia and Philippines and around the world will see that these people actually are a mercy for the world. They do represent peace and justice. It's not all talk. It's not all sermons in the mosque, on the pulpit, or on the mimbar, where the imam says, have mercy, be merciful, be loving, be compassionate, and it is not seen in the world. As far as I know Muslims are going through a very difficult period in history. There's a lot of Islamophobia. The media is not helping us. Okay, there is a lot of political mishmash going on. But at the same time, we shouldn't be put off by these things. We should be taking the lead on all these things I talked about. I do apologize
Definitely,
for all that emotional
okay.
stuff.
So, after that, you transitioned into dawah.
Yes.
You started giving dawah. You didn't start giving dawah straight away.
Yeah.
When you thought you had reached a place,
Yeah.
I think you started giving dawah. You started getting very, very active in dawah.
Yeah.
What triggered you to go from like a normal Muslim living his life, you worked in buses for some time as well,
Yeah.
To thinking, okay, you know what, I need to step up and I need to be there. Tackling
Basically,
these people.
I never planned it. Just like I ended up with that gang life. Okay, I didn't plan it. I'm not saying dawah life is like gang life, but dawah life is a beautiful life. It's the total opposite. Where you have brotherhood of love and compassion and mercy and peace and justice.
Yeah.
Dawah stands for making this planet a better place. Dawah stands for making this world a peaceful abode, making the world great again. The slogan, making America great again.
Yeah.
I say making the world great again. Why don't we look into that?
Yeah.
Okay, and dawah means exactly that. Dawah means making the world great again. So I got involved in dawah after 2010, slowly and steadily. I started having dialogues, debates with Christian scholars, Christian missionaries.
Yeah.
And my dawah activity was triggered by one individual in particular. I'm not going to name him. He used to come to Speaker's Corner, Hyde Park, and he used to throw a lot of things at Islam, a lot of lies and misconceptions, deliberately spreading them among the Christian people. Because a lot of the Christian missionaries who attack Islam nowadays, their mission is not to preach Christianity or the gospel to their flock. Their mission is to prevent their flock from becoming Muslim. Because Islam is very appealing. Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world. It is spreading very fast. People love Islam, Islamic culture. Islam looks beautiful. Not that other ways are not beautiful. There is beauty in every single human community and human culture. Okay? But Islam stands out uniquely. So a lot of people are coming to Islam because of social media, because of the mainstream media.
Yeah.
People read the Quran. People are inspired by a Muslim figure. Or there are a number of things. So Christian missionaries, a lot of them who attack Islam, I'm talking about those ones in particular, they attack Islam to prevent their flock from even looking into Islam. And a lot of these attacks consist of misconceptions, lies, outright forgeries.
So that's actually what inspired you.
So that really triggered me to get involved and start debating such people.
Akbar.
And I did. And I started debating them, and there went my dawah,
And you transitioned into dawah, you became active in it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I find very, very inspirational about you, I want to end on these two things. You went back to university, fairly late.
Yeah.
Compared to the normal person that goes through the education system.
Yeah.
What inspired you to go into university very, very quickly?
Dawah.
Okay.
Dawah. In 2006. What inspired me partly was when I used to work for TfL, Transport for London. I used to drive buses. And I drove buses for 1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
And then I realized, hold on, is this what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? Is this what I want to do? Not that it's a bad job. It's halal money.
But you saw yourself as doing some...
But I didn't see myself driving the bus for the rest of my life. No. So I wanted to study. I saw a way out in studying. So I went and I took up a degree. Alhamdulillah, I finished it. I started part-time. I finished it. I told many of my friends to do the same. Some did, some didn't. Those who listened to me, mashallah, now they have degrees and masters. Others are still trying, mashallah. So I went on to doing that. Then I started a master's with Birkbeck College, University of London, in medieval history. Unfortunately, I couldn't complete that. And then I started another master's with SOAS, School of Oriental and African Studies. The reason why I couldn't do the first master's was that there was very little choice of modules with that particular institution, and I really didn't like those modules, the ones I chose. So I had to drop it in the middle. I couldn't continue. So I went and joined SOAS, where I took modules I wanted to study. Alhamdulillah, that's done. So I'm looking into now
PhD.
Inshallah.
It's all up and over. It's all up and forward. Inshallah. And the last thing that I want to conclude on is something that I know about you that a lot of people don't know, and I wanted you to give it maybe as advice, and we can conclude on this. I think has been very, very amazing. We've got like a big insight into you, and history is very prevalent in you, mashallah, tabarakallah. One thing I've noticed about you is that as a person, you're very stress-free. You're very worry-free. And I'm not saying you haven't got worries. You definitely have, because everyone's got worries and problems. What makes you approach life with that attitude? Because I think it's a very life-changing attitude. I think when someone becomes like that, they get through life rather than just like scraping through it.
You see, I didn't used to be like that. As I grew in Islam, in my knowledge and in my experience in Islam, one of the lessons I learned was that no matter what you do, no matter how much you stress, things won't change. When I say things won't change, doesn't mean that you don't try to change things. No, of course you do. The point I'm making is that you need to be positive. You need to always have positive attitude, even in your misfortune or apparent misfortune. What you see as misfortune, there may be something good in it. And I've seen that sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes you through certain experiences in life to mold your character, to nurture your character, to prepare you for something greater, right? This is the way I see it. So, alhamdulillah, I don't let myself stress too much. If a problem comes in my life, I try to solve it. I don't sit on it. I don't cry about it. I don't moan about it. What I do is I start thinking about the solutions straight away, immediately, and I want to find solutions and present solutions. So if we have this positive attitude towards life, that no matter what problem you may have in life, look at what you have and don't look at what you don't have or what you can't get, because you can't get everything in life. You can never be the most, you can never be Mr. Know-It-All, or you can never be Mr. Have-It-All. You can't. That's impossible. No one has ever achieved that in life. If that's the case, then you thank Allah for what you have, and that's your asset. Okay? What you don't have is not meant for you, and what you cannot have is not meant for you. What you do have is your provision, is your asset. Value it, do well by it, and enjoy it, rather than crying about things you don't have and you can't reach. So what you do possess, enjoy that. Enjoy it. You enjoy your children, the children Allah has given you. Whatever children you have, however they are, do well by them. Okay, enjoy them, spend time with them, right? And live with them properly, because this is what Allah has given you. This is what Allah has chosen for you. Okay, instead of dreaming about the ideal world, or instead of dreaming about some angel landing from the heavens, it doesn't happen that way. Okay, so you have to be happy about what Allah has given you. That attitude makes you happy. So, qana'a is another concept. Contentment. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. If you are content with what Allah has given you, what Allah has chosen for you, you strive, you try hard, you work hard, you make your life better, you become a vehicle or a tool in making this world a better place, making sure that your contribution to this planet is positive, and you are some bolt or some little screw somewhere, in the grand scheme of things, in the grand machine of the universe, making this world a better place. Okay, as long as you're playing that role, you'll live a very happy life.
Most definitely. Allahu Akbar. Jazakallahu khairan for coming on the Rerooted podcast for the first time.
Thank you.
I don't think it's going to be the last one. And subhanAllah, brothers and sisters, that's what we had today. Absolutely inspirational stuff. We spoke a lot about history, da'wah, worry, being stress-free, getting through life, different phases from life. And I think there's a lot of messages that are within the things that we discussed that a lot of people can pick at themselves. And I honestly, I don't even think we covered half of it. I'll be honest with you. I don't think we covered half of it. There's so much more to cover. Even with my plan, I didn't get to talk about everything that I wanted to talk about. So we definitely have to get you on again. So it's been really, really good. Brothers and sisters, that's been this episode of Rerooted with Ustad Adnan Rashid. We will see you on the next one as well, inshallah ta'ala. Make sure you download our podcast on all the major podcast apps. That's SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more. You can listen to us on YouTube as well if you want with the video. Look after yourselves. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
Dum dum dum.